Hi, everybody. This is Jen Hatmaker, your host of the For the Love podcast. Welcome to the show. Oh, you're going to get a nice surprise today. We're in a series called For the Love of Funny. And you know how I feel about funny people, comics, comedians, writers, performers, all of them. I live for humor. And it's so fun when we get to have guests back on the show that we already love, that we've had on before. Um, and today's guest is really like one of my favorite people, period. Certainly one of my favorite people to follow. She joined us actually in the very first year of our show when we had a similar series called For the Love of Laughter. And she was fire then and she's fire now. And so we became friends on that show. That's how I made her my friend. And then have kept up with each other ever since. And I just am so happy that she's back on. And this whole interview is so special and so different than what I expected. And I think it might be you too. Like, well, she really let us into her story today, because today I'm talking, of course, about the phenomenal Anjelah Johnson-Reyes. One of our favorite comedians in the whole wide world. So you know her probably initially from her awesome Nail Salon comedy sketch. That was what sent her viral and really like launched her career. And her character on MadTV, Qui Qui, her amazing comedy specials. Maybe you've seen her on tour. So 5 years ago, life was a lot different for her. Well, for both of us, frankly. I was married. Nobody had ever heard of COVID. Anjelah was just 6 years into her marriage. Her career was like red hot. And she and her husband, Manuel, had just decided we're not going to have kids. We're career folks, and we're just going to be married forever without kids. And then she wrote like a bunch of bits around that. But you know what? Life comes such fast sometimes, doesn't it? Pandemics happen and marriages end and babies get born. Anjelah had a baby this year. We're going to talk all about this, really all about it. Her baby, Rosie Harlow Reyes, just turned 3 months last week. It is a whole story, which she really shares with us with a lot of generosity. We're so happy for them. And she's going to talk about why and how she changed her mind, what it was like to get pregnant. This is a girl who used to make jokes about this, how she would walk by a pregnant girl on the street and hold her breath so she wouldn't catch her pregnant vibe, right? So we talk all about that. And other things have happened too. She started some podcasts. One she does with Manny. They call themselves Anjelah. Another called Ghost Stories. She had a biography come out last year called Who Do I Think I Am? And she did a ton of touring. And she's been really open about what life has been like since becoming a 41-year-old first-time mom, which we also talk about. She's sharing those thoughts over on her YouTube channel with some videos she's recording called Postpartum Confessions, which are tender and funny and vulnerable, and you will love them. And so no matter who you are, you're going to love this conversation today. She is just a gem. She is solid gold. And I'm so thrilled to bring you my conversation with Anjelah Johnson-Reyes. I'm absolutely delighted to see you. You look amazing. I've missed you.
Oh, I miss you.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Look at you.
Cue round of applause. Just kidding.
Look at you, mama. Look, tons of my community already follow you, of course. But I did already spill your news in the intro that your life is a little bit different than the last time you were on the show, as is mine. Well, it was just a weird, 3 years, wasn't it?
We had no clue what was in store for us. Oh, man.
The last time you and I talked, I was married. You weren't going to have any kids. And we'd never heard of COVID. And we were just trucking right along in our little lives, weren't we?
Just minding our own business. My uterus was intact. Everything was, listen, it was, things change.
Just tell us a little bit, give us just a little update since the last time you were on the show. There's big ones, but there's also you have a more life than just, a baby. You're more than just a baby mama. Would you just helicopter down for us onto your life and be like, this is my deal right now?
Was it 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
5 years. Okay. So much. I feel like time goes faster when you get older.
I do too.
Right? Like when you're young, it's just like 5 years is like, oh my gosh, like so far away. But now 5 years is like, oh my gosh, I'm almost dead. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, it's a blink. It's a blink. And I can't even remember half of it either. That's the weird thing about getting older is also, what did I do? I don't remember. Like, did I go somewhere or like, what's been happening? I don't know. I just know that I'm older.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for me, the past 5 years have been a whirlwind. Yes, I did have a baby, and that came right after COVID. And I've since 5 years from now, I've filmed 2 more hour specials since then. Maybe 3. I don't know. I'm very ambitious. But I think for sure 2 hour specials. My current one, Say I Won't, which is released on YouTube. And that's probably my most favorite hour special I've ever done.
Really?
Yes.
Let me just put a pin in the rest of it and like tell me why. Why is that your favorite?
Okay. So I had the most fun writing this material and touring this material. And part of it was I finally got a handle on my mental health while touring.
Ah, that's big.
So I was having such a good time going from city to city, where before I would be like fighting anxiety, even though I knew I was going to have fun once I got on stage. It's anxiety leading up to the whole entire time. But this one, I finally had my mental health in check, and I was having so much fun. So I was writing from a different place. I was writing not from a place of like pressure and I have to do this, but it's like, what do I want to say? What do I want to talk about? Like it was just different. And then my husband and I decided to self-finance and produce this special ourselves and just take a risk. And it looks beautiful. We filmed it at the Ryman, the historic Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee, where Elvis Presley, Dolly Parton, like so many people have performed on this stage, and then they let the riffraff in and record a comedy special. And we decided to release it on YouTube. And it was a very full circle moment for me because my career started on YouTube. It started when this viral video, the Nail Salon blew up and just infiltrated people's homes across the world. And so YouTube was what kicked off my career for me. I would not be where I am today if it was not for YouTube. And so when we produced it, we decided to bring it back to the platform that started it all for me and just release it there for everybody for free, and just take a risk on myself and hope that, the next wave of masses sees this special in the same way people saw, the first video that I ever had released. So
I love this choice. I did not realize that you did that. I find that such a ballsy and smart choice right now when so many other services, streaming services particularly, really just capitalize on other people's content. And to some degree, have the leverage to maximize what should be, frankly, your profits and loyalty to you from your fan base, but rather it all shifts to the service. And so it's a risk to do that, but you own it. You have full creative control. It is yours. Like, I find that a pretty courageous move. Are you glad in hindsight you did it that way?
For sure. Definitely. Yeah. It's like, of course, I would love to have the monster of the name Netflix behind me, because nowadays, people, when they want to know when's your next comedy special, the question they're asking is, when's the next time I can see you talking for an hour doing your stand-up comedy? Like wherever it is, where can I see that? But the words that come out are, when's your next Netflix special? Like
Sure.
People just assume.
It's like synonymous now. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think with having the Netflix name behind it just gives you that extra push, but then you don't own it. It's not yours. You don't have creative control. So it was a risk in the sense of, is it worth putting out without that monster name behind it to own it. And for us, yes. And the risk was worth it for sure. I've received the most positive feedback on any special that I've ever had. And we're well over 2 million views.
It's amazing.
Releasing it on YouTube.
Yeah,
and,
it's amazing.
It's been a pretty special, like, YouTube is a gnarly place to go through comments. Like, I refuse to go through comments.
No, save yourself.
Right. And I'm like,
Yes.
I don't make any YouTube comments. Like, I don't do that anymore. But when this one came out, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put my big girl chonies on right now and just go through the comment section and just see, like, how are people receiving this special? And I know there's going to be some people that hate it, but I'm just going to, not listen to them. But it was such positive feedback that I was like blown away. Like, sure, there is some hater comments, and I find that it's usually 99.9% of the time men who just are like, women aren't funny. And then
say less.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just
women
like,
aren't funny.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
All the time.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I found that most of the comments were very grateful, and people kind of saying like, this is my favorite one I've seen of you. Like, I've seen all your specials, and like real genuine comments, like not to say like all the, oh, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen is not genuine, but there's something like when you read like people's words, like you can feel like when the person's like, I just stumbled upon this video. I don't know how it ended up in my feed. I've never heard of you before, but I thought this was so funny. I couldn't stop watching it. Like, it really picked up my day. Thank you so much. Like things like that. I'm like, okay, that was a real like comment.
Yeah, that's genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it makes sense. I mean, you're just getting better at what you do. You are a hard worker. Like, I always get tickled when people are like, oh, how fun. What a fun little life to be a stand-up. What are you like? I'd rather be like a diplomat to like a third world country. Like, it's so hard. Like the skill involved, learning your comedic timing in a live room, figuring out how to structure a joke in a story, constantly honing it. So hard. It is such a skill set. It would be easier for you to stand up there and do a dramatic monologue for an hour. And so you just work hard. You've never stopped working hard. Never. Like, this is what you do. You've kept your foot on the gas. So I'm not surprised to hear everybody saying, God, this is maybe the best work you've ever done. Like, you're just at the top of your career, but also I find a really, thanks for sharing that you felt so like mentally strong and you had your mental health in hand too, because that's got to go together. The way that you're writing your material, and then certainly your delivery, like your way to be on a stage and how comfortable you are. But do you mind talking about some of the levers that you pulled to really become mentally healthy and strong?
Yes. Number one, and this is not me selling a product, like click here for 15% off my code so I can get a commission. This is definitely not that. But I started using a supplement called Amari, and they're very like specific. Like, you can't say that it cures your anxiety or anything like that, because legally we can't say that. I'm just telling you guys what I experienced when I started taking this product. I was at a place in my life where my skin was really bad. It was breaking out. It was like a rash. It was like acne. Like, what is this? It would not go away. I reached out to a friend of mine, and she was like, here, you should start taking this product. It cleared up my skin. So I took it. The first day I took it was a travel day. I was flying to another city, which usually is like anxiety out the wazoo. And I felt light that day. Not like I was like skipping, going like, hey, everybody in the airport, how you doing? But I felt light. I didn't feel a heavy burden. I was just kind of walking easier. And I was like, it was so, I recognized it. I'm like, typically I have anxiety walking through the airport, but I don't feel that right now. I feel light. That's the only way I could describe it. And I was like, surely it's not that supplement I took this morning. Like, that would be weird. So then I take it again the next day. And then I call my friend, and because the next day I'm like, same thing. I felt like in a good mood. Again, not like skipping around town, but I just felt like in a good mood. And I called my friend. I was like, hey, is a side effect like you're in a good mood with this supplement. And she was like, no, it's about your gut health. It's getting your gut health in check. So like she was telling me to take this to clear up my skin, for my gut, to clear my skin. But what happened is the science behind it is your gut health is directly correlated to your mental health. And so as I was getting my gut health in check, all of a sudden my mental health was like clearer and happier. And I was like, no way, because I just took it day one. And she's like, yeah, people have reported feeling different like within the first 3 days. I'm like, this is wild. So anyways, I took it for months and I really felt a difference in my life. I felt myself saying yes to more things where I would typically say no. Like, hey, do you want to come to this event on Thursday? And there's going to be press there and blah, blah, blah. And I'll think of every reason why I should not go. I got an early flight the next day, so I probably shouldn't. Oh my gosh, I had like 2 podcasts recorded that day. It's going to be so overwhelming. I probably should just not go. I would think of every excuse to say no to a great opportunity, to sabotage myself. I would think of, and it's not like an excuse. Like I'm actually believing it. I'm believing these excuses. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be exhausted. No, I shouldn't go. That's exhausting. Like I would really believe these excuses I was giving myself because of my anxiety. It was so strong. It would like trick me. And I noticed I started saying yes to more things. I started when I would get a new audition in an email that I would have to self-record. It didn't give me anxiety to where I put it off reading my lines right before I was supposed to turn in my audition, because that's what I would do. I would be like, let me just not even look at the lines because it's just giving me, it's daunting, even though this is what I want to do. I want to be an actress. I want to be in movies. And then I get an audition for a movie and I'm like, oh, I can't. It's too much anxiety.
It's like self-sabotaging behavior that doesn't make sense.
Exactly. And then I started seeing like I would get an audition and I would just start reading it and start going through it, start practicing and start having fun with it. And anyway, so that was the start of changing my mental health for me. And I saw the difference in my touring, the difference in my writing, in my traveling, in my packing before touring. Like I could see the difference through it.
Amari.
And so it's
and do you have to have a prescription or can you just get it?
No, you can get it. You can go to my Instagram page and click on the link in my bio and go through there. You can read my whole story and see which products of Amari that I actually take, or you can just go to the Amari website and just look it up yourself and do your own research and things like that. So yeah, that really helped me. And it changed a lot of things for me. And so I got my mental health with that. And then my tools that I've always used: journaling, gratitude, singing. And I feel like singing is a vibration, right? And sometimes when I feel anxiety now, which is a different kind of anxiety, it's like a postpartum anxiety. It's like when I start breastfeeding and pumping anxiety, it's different. I will hum because that vibration like shakes up things within me. And I just will be like, and I'm just like breaking up whatever anxiety was in there. And so sometimes singing just helps. And that's when I know when I'm having anxiety is I haven't been singing in a while. And I'm like, oh, I think I have a lot going on internally. And so singing really helps like break up whatever's happening.
I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. And it's particularly believable because, well, first of all, you weren't taking that with an eye on anxiety. You were taking it to clear up your skin.
Right.
So it couldn't even been psychosomatic. Like you weren't even having a placebo effect.
Right.
Because you were expecting it. Like the fact that it just literally immediately impacted you and like why is phenomenal. And the fact that you can feel that in all the areas of your life is special and wonderful, especially now because you got a whole lot more going on.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes, even often, we're faced with tough choices. All of us, really. Sometimes the path forward isn't that clear at all. So, I mean, really, show me a human person who hasn't dealt with this. I mean, decisions around, you name it, career, relationships, family, so many things. And I've been there, of course. And therapy helped me. It helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate everything life throws at you. So you can move forward, not just with confidence, but even like excitement. I've learned that trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. Like the more you practice it, the easier it gets. And so if you're thinking of trying therapy, just think about trying BetterHelp. It's entirely online. It's convenient and flexible, suited to your schedule. Just fill out a really brief questionnaire and you'll get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you need to. So let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/forthelove today and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/forthelove. I discovered Hans Honey last year and fell in love immediately. 1,000,000% obsessed. You know, I made my own hot honey in my Feed These People cookbook for the grilled shrimp and coconut rice recipe. But listen, save the trouble and just order a jar of theirs for yourself and literally everyone you know. Also put it on pizza and thank me later. Anyhow, beyond the crazy good hot honey is a whole host of other amazing infused and creamed honeys, plus natural honey-based bath and body products, you guys. Even more importantly is the crazy good work this social enterprise does. So Hans Honey is a community of women fighting for women. They employ women survivors of trauma, like addiction, trafficking, generational poverty, abuse, and give them thus dignity and purpose. They call it their own healing hive, love. So basically, they are paving the way for women to rebuild their lives. Behind every label and product is a story of survival. They are making a social impact which never tasted so sweet. You guys head over to hanshoney.com to see all their products. 100% of profits employ women survivors and sustain programs that equip and empower them on their journeys. That's Hans Honey, HONSHONEY.com.
I want to talk to you about this because you've done bits for like ages about, and just been real vocal and like honest about Manny and I aren't going to have kids. That's just not going to be our deal. That's our decision. We're going to do just an adult, no kid life, and which is a real common choice now for sure. You worked it into like your content, some of your material. So, but you have a baby is what you have. It lives with you. Like it's your whole baby. And forever so, can you talk a little bit? I know that you have elsewhere, but on the show, can you talk about what changed and, what the journey for you was like, to become pregnant? Did one of you, were one of you kind of the lead horse initially and kind of had to pull the other up, or was this like we've spontaneously and instantly changed our minds at the same time?
No way. That would be too easy. No. Things changed for me during COVID 2020. So this is what happened. My career has always been my baby, has always been the thing that I hold most dear to my heart, the thing that I think about when I wake up and when I go to bed. It consumed most of my prayer life. It was my baby. And I never had a desire for kids. The thought of having kids felt like a consolation prize. If I have a kid, then that means I didn't get my dream. I settled for this. That's where I was at. So we're in 2020, we're quarantined, everybody's home, nobody's on the road, nobody's filming anything, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, when I would watch movies and TV shows, which typically I would watch something and be like, when's my turn? When will I be thriving in film and TV, right? Well, I'm watching things and I don't have that desire. I don't look at it and be like, when's my turn? All of a sudden I'm like, I'm so grateful to be home. So glad I'm not out on the road. And then it was like, if I never have an audition again, I don't care. I don't need it. I loved being home. I loved all of a sudden enjoying the fruits of my labor that I never enjoyed. I had this beautiful home that I worked really hard for, and I had a pool. And growing up, the pool, it was like the community center pool. Like you don't have pools in your backyard. That's like rich people stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like I had an aunt who had a pool, and every now and then we'd go over to Aunt Susie's house and we could just swim in her pool. But the fact that I had a pool and I never used it. I had this balcony that overlooked the city. I had a view of the beautiful city lights, and I never even put furniture on my balcony because I never had time to sit out there. And so all of a sudden I'm home and I put furniture on my balcony. It becomes like my little sanctuary. I put like some plants out there. I put like a water feature out there. And now it's my mornings where I have my journal time. I have a glass of wine at the end of the night. I'm overlooking the city. Now I'm swimming, and now I build a garden in my backyard. I'm learning how to garden. I've never done that before. And now I'm like becoming even more connected with Mother Earth and learning about planting seeds and growing and death and like the cycles and like all of these. It was such a beautiful experience that I was enjoying being home. And the thought of going back on the road and hustling the way I had been all these years was not appealing to me. I didn't want that anymore. And I was like, I don't know if I want this career. The fact that I would ever say that out of my mouth was wild to me. So as soon as I started thinking that way, I was like, oh, shoot. Did I mess up? Should I have kids? Because everybody always would tell me like, there's nothing more fulfilling like having a child. And sure, your career is great, but having a kid, it's just a different kind of fulfillment. And I would always be like, okay, sure. Right. But all of a sudden, this thing that I thought was so fulfilling was not. It felt empty. It felt like, oh, that was a facade. I could see through it now. Oh, shoot. Did I mess up? Should I have had kids? Should I have thought the kid thing a little further, you know? And so that's kind of what started it for me. And I was like, well, at this point, I'm 38 years old. And I'm like, I don't even know if I have eggs to even have kids. Like, I've never looked into this. I've never asked the question. I'm like, before I even go down that path in my mind, let me just go to the doctors to see if those are even options for me. Because if that's even options, then I'm just going to stick right with like, no, I'm good. Let's just get back on the road. So I went to the doctor, I did blood tests and all of that. And they were like, okay, all your levels are low. So if you want to do something, you need to hurry up. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, let's save my eggs. I'm still not convinced that I want kids. I'm like, let's just save my eggs. And so that way, if we ever change our mind, we have that there. So I start going through the process of saving my eggs. And then come to find out, I don't have that many eggs. And first it was like, okay, you have 12. And then every appointment I would come back and they would do an ultrasound. They're like, okay, only 8. Oh, actually, you only have 6. Oh, and it just kept going down and down. And the first time around, and I'm keeping like my friend, like she went through this process and like, you know, she got like 16 eggs. And my first time going through it, I got 2 eggs. And I was like, okay. And then everybody kept saying like, well, you only need 1. Sure. You only need 1, but your odds are better with 16. Okay. And so I was like, that was disheartening. So every time I'd come back to the doctor and it started looking more and more like this was not going to happen for me, the more and more I wanted it. The more I was like, oh, wait, what do you mean? I've waited all this time and I didn't know. I should have did this sooner. Like, oh my gosh, like what do you mean? And so I went through the first cycle, and when I only got 2 eggs, then it kind of switched when I went to do it again for a second time. And then it was like, I'm not just saving my eggs. Now I'm trying to have a kid. Like then internally it shifted. And then, you know, getting to the question of, you know, was one of you leading the charge? I definitely was leading the charge. And Manny was kind of like, he was on board to save the eggs. And then when I was like, no, I'm trying to have a kid, he describes it as like, we're both on the freeway. We're driving super fast, chasing our dreams, right? We're like, boom, boom, down this highway of like chasing the dreams. And then all of a sudden I just exited the freeway and said, and I left, and he kept going, and he's looking back like, what? Wait, what? We're having kids? Hold on. This is different than what we said for the past 12 years. So it was really difficult in the beginning because IVF is very expensive. It's taxing on your body, your emotions, your hormones, everything. And my husband, he's very black and white. He's a financial guy. And so he's like doing all the numbers, and he's like, okay, so how many times do you want to do this? Like, what's the end goal? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm like very being emotional about things like, well, if I can handle doing it again, then I would like to do it again. And then he's more like black and white numbers, like, well, no, we need a budget, like put a number on it. And once we get to that number, then that's it. And I'm like, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good, because what if I get to that number and I'm like, I want to try again, you know? So we bumped heads a lot in the beginning. And it was very hard emotionally. And also at the same time, while I'm going through this process, we had sold our house, that, you know, this beautiful home that I just started settling into, sold our house, and we decided to split time with Nashville and LA. So we bought a smaller fixer-upper in LA. We started remodeling it. Well, during COVID, all permits were taking forever and ever. So we ended up crashing with our friends in their 2-bedroom apartment with their dog, and us with our dog. God bless them. They let us stay with them. And so I'm at my friend's 2-bedroom apartment in their space, living out of a suitcase and doing my IVF hormonal shots in their kitchen. And just, you know what I mean? Just, this was like such a vulnerable experience, but I'm just living out a suitcase and doing it wherever I can. And then leaving that suitcase to go on the road to do a show and live out of a different suitcase, and then go to a different hotel and then come back. And then it was so much happening. Like, no wonder why my body was stressed and it was not working out for me. So then what happens is, during this process of IVF, and they're doing all the ultrasounds and stuff, they're like, okay, you have fibroids, and these fibroids are so big and they're in the locations to where if you want to get pregnant, you have to get these removed. So we can do the egg extractions, but before we do any kind of implanting, you have to have this surgery to get it removed. So I go through this whole process, go to have this surgery, myomectomy surgery. It's going to be, they're like, it'll be like maybe 4 hours long to get all these out. I go into surgery, it ends up being like 8 hours long, because when they went in there, they found endometriosis just everywhere, just covered. So now they have to scrape out endometriosis, get these fibroids out. It was very, very traumatizing to my insides. And this is after my second time of IVF. So now, like, my body has gone under to get eggs once. My body went under to get eggs twice. My body went under to get fibroids out. Like, just my body was going through all of this. So I did this surgery, and 2 weeks later, my book released to the world. So I'm like going through all this while I'm trying to promote my book. I'm calling radio stations from like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., just every 15 minutes, back to back, calling radio. And then my book comes out. And then I remember I had my book release party, and I was still on my pain meds. It was 1 week after my surgery. And I remember the moment the pain med wore off, right in the middle of a conversation with someone. And the girl was like, "Are you okay?"
You okay?
And I was like, "Oh, that's my cue. Time to go home. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the party." And then I left. So that's what my body was going through. And then I started my tour 2 weeks after that. Now I'm just touring. I have over 100 cities, and I start my tour.
No, I can't even. My brain's freaking out right now.
Yeah. And so we do the eggs. Okay. And then there's this too. So then we have to get the egg, and you put it with Manny's sperm, and then you make an embryo, right? So then Manny, when we started the process, he had like billion count sperm. Everything was great. Then when we go to do the actual fertilization, 0 count sperm, like no sperm. We're like, that's weird. Can you test it again? That has to be a mistake. Well, come to find out, he was on testosterone supplements that affected his sperm. So now he don't have no sperm. So now I got some eggs. I have a total of, I think it was 6 eggs, because I got 4 eggs the second round. So I have 6 eggs just waiting for some sperm, but he don't have none. So now we have to wait for him. He has to go see specialists. Now it's a whole thing about that. He finally gets his sperm back. They do the fertilization and we get 4 embryos. They're like, okay, we're sending these off to testing. And after that, then I remember I get a phone call and I'm going city to city, right? And I just finished doing one city and we're on the road driving down south to do the next city. And I get a call from my doctor that none of the embryos are viable. None of them worked. So they're like, we got to start over from scratch. I just went through all of it.
Did you just fall apart?
At this point, I didn't.
You just froze. Like, yeah. Like, that's just too much.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, I cannot compute.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Yeah.
And so I have this conversation with my husband, and of course it's just devastating, but it's like, when can I do this again? I have a huge tour that I'm on. When do I even have time to do this? And then I'm already 40. So I don't even know when I can do it. So at this point, I'm like, okay, in November, I have 3.5 weeks off. I need 2 weeks for this process. So I'll do it then. I'll do it again in November. And this is like early spring that we're having this conversation. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it in November when I have that. That's the only break I have for this tour. In the meantime, I'm getting ready to film my hour special, the one that we're producing ourselves. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on getting myself ready for that special. And I started making healthier choices on the road, eating. I started working out every day. I'm exercising every day. I'm not eating after a certain hour. I'm not eating French fries at every meal. I stopped drinking alcohol for the whole rest of the tour. I was like, listen, I'm trying to get it right, get it tight for this taping. Because by the time I walk on that stage, I'm going to be like the most fit I've ever been in my life. So now I'm making all these healthy choices, all for the purpose of this hour special taping. In the meantime, I'm still doing my, what do they call it? The test where you see if you're ovulating.
Yeah. Like an ovulation.
Yeah. You pee on the stick and it tells you if you're ovulating or not, so that we could still at least try naturally. Well, I'll check my ovulation, and by the time I'm ovulating, I'm already on the road and he's back at home. So it's like, oh, okay. So now I not only have to be ovulating, but I have to be in the same city as you. So it just was not working out. My hour special was being taped October 1st in Nashville. The week before my taping, I was ovulating and I was in the same city as my husband.
Okay. You're like, let's go, boy.
Give it a go. And I got pregnant. Just there it is.
Just ridiculous.
I was preparing.
Just old-fashioned sexual intercourse.
Just some intercourse when my mind wasn't on it. And I was healthy. I was drinking. I wasn't eating all the trans fats, and I wasn't eating late at night and giving my body like so much work to do.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the stars aligned and I got pregnant, and here we are.
Here you are. That story, I'm so thankful you told that extended version of it, because that's a lot of people's story. Like, there's a lot of people who just heard you tell that and they're like, same. And now you have a whole baby girl. Like, and I also love how you're doing this, this early baby beginning stage thing publicly, because it would be tempting to simply spin this as frankly, the miracle that it is. Like, let's be honest, you had a lot of odds against you and you've got your little miracle baby, but you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth about postpartum. You're telling the truth about breastfeeding. You are telling the truth about what it means to have really been sleeping for 41 years until now. And so I know that's also just kind of who you are. You're just a candid and a frank person. But did you just decide early on, I'm gonna be fairly honest about early motherhood and what this looks like?
Well, I feel like it wasn't necessarily a decision, more so than this is kind of how I've always been. Like I've shared my life with people on Instagram stories, and that's kind of been how I connect with people. And so I wanted to keep that going with this new season of my life. And there's, in the beginning with like postpartum, I didn't share as much because I was going through so much hormonally that I ended up like kind of turning off and turning inward and becoming silent. Whereas like before I would have so much to say on my stories. Like there's a butterfly flying by and I have this weird story about butterflies that I'm gonna share with you. And then I'm gonna like turn it into something else. And then I'm taking a poll at the end of it. Like, how many of you have ever had a butterfly? But like, it's just, I can talk about anything. But all of a sudden I didn't have anything to share. I was going through so much hormonally. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm learning how to breastfeed. And I had to go through that on my own. And then I started opening up more. Then I started like, let me just talk to the camera. And I remember saying to like one of my stories one day, I was like, I haven't talked on here for a while. So here's my face, everyone. And just started like a muscle, like getting back into it. And then I enjoyed sharing the things that I was going through. And I was learning so much from people who would message me, tell me their stories. And I was so grateful for it. Then I decided to, it was like breastfeeding awareness month or something. And I'm like, oh, I'll just do my video too. And I remember I recorded it and I was like, this is dumb. No, nobody cares. Like I'm just sitting here recording. Who even cares that she didn't latch and blah, 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 whatever. And turns out a lot of people did. And they were like, thank you so much. And I'm like, oh, okay, then maybe I should share more things. And so that's how Postpartum Confessions started, where I started on my YouTube channel, just sharing something that I think about in this postpartum season, in this fourth trimester, they call it. And everything from, and I learned this, like I just talked about, I get anxiety when I breastfeed or I pump. It's like the first few sucks, this like wave of anxiety just like flows through my body. And I'm not thinking about anything. It just happens. And I like have to like shake it out and like blow and do my humming and like whatever it is. And then people started commenting, oh, that's something called demer something, like milk ejection, something, whatever. I had no idea it was a real thing. I thought I was just having anxiety. And no, it's something that 5% of lactating mothers get. And I'm like,
oh, the internet is undefeated.
Right.
When I was first going through my divorce, and I'm like you too, like me being sort of candid about my life is just, it's not a thing I'm doing. It's not a shtick. It's just who I am. So I don't, that was going to end up being a part of that too. And I will be grateful for the rest of my days about how much I learned. When I would just talk online, I didn't know what I was doing. And I'd never been divorced. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what to expect. And the amount of people that came in and said, this helped me. This is what to expect next. This is what you'll do next. This is something you're probably experiencing that's normal. This is something that could be helpful. I mean, it was like cold water on a warm day. And so there's always something really powerful about that sort of transparency with a community that you've built, because that's a community who loves you. These aren't just cold calls. These are tried and true. They've been around you a very long time. They love you. They love Manny. They love your work. They're going to love your baby. I mean, they're just going to love this whole journey for you. Those are like trusted advisors, and they were for me too. And I love that you did this. And what I'm looking forward to is, as she continues to grow and your motherhood story expands.
If you're anything like me, your size may go up or down a little. Like our bodies just fluctuate like bodies do. From week to week, month to month, sometimes year to year. That's normal. It's okay. It's even good sometimes. We're human people with human bodies. But sometimes it can make clothes kind of annoying and dumb. Like even small shifts are enough to make a size change, which can be a problem because we can't just buy clothes forever, right? So I see you raising your hand out there. You're with me on this. I get fights into zippers just like the rest of us. So here's what I want you to know, and a hack that I have discovered for myself. My friends over at Able Clothing have solved this problem with something new, and they're calling it the Size Swap Program for, I'm not kidding, forever amount of time. When you shop their Size Swap collection, you can exchange these items for a new size that fits you best for free and for always. It's the easy button for clothes. And some of our favorite looks are in the Size Swap collection, including the best denim jacket in the world that I obsess over. Tons of amazing layering shirts and graphic tees. The most delicious leather jacket you've ever seen. Dresses, cardigans, you guys, even shoes. This is just one more way Able is out here doing the absolute most with their amazing style for everyone and their ethical practices. So head over to ableclothing.com and use my code JEN to save a little something extra. So that's ableclothing.com, code JEN.
What's exciting is you're about to tap into a whole new arsenal of material.
Yeah.
I mean, it is endless. Mom content is so funny. You can't write it any better than it just actually happens. And so you are about to have a new lane in your work that is going to be really fun for the rest of us to watch and see what you do with it, because you spend it all in gold. And so I can't wait for that stuff. I can't wait for your material to come out, your mom tour. And it's going to be amazing. So listen, we're going to wrap this up, but I'm going to ask you rapid fire here. This is a little bit going back to your first appearance on this show and now. So in 2018, I asked you what your favorite bit was that you were working on since 2018. And at the time it was a secret and you said you couldn't share it. Do you have any idea what it was? Yeah, I know. That's what we all said. We're like, I think she remembers what it was. What was she working on in 2018? Okay. And if you don't remember it, maybe just give us the 60-second, this is my favorite bit I've done recently, like on the last tour or in the last special, whichever one, your very favorite section.
Okay. My favorite jokes right now is one about my first tornado experience in living in the South and being a California girl living in the South. And it's a whole act out thing. I couldn't even do it justice if I did it right now. And then the other one is I talk about my first time getting a COVID test. And the topic, I know as soon as you say the word COVID, then some people in the audience turn off and they're like, oh, great, it's a COVID joke. But it's actually not a COVID joke. It's more about my experience with taking that test and how the nurse put the Q-tip so far up there. I thought he was in my brain, and he's manually making my eyelids close, and it was just the whole thing. Those are probably my favorite.
Okay, awesome. Last time you were on, I asked you, in your travels, in your work, what celeb would you be thrilled to meet? And at the time, you said Christopher Maloney. So has there been anyone to match that thrill since in 5 years?
A celebrity that I want to meet or I have met? Because I have met Christopher Maloney.
And?
Amazing. I took a picture with him and I wish I could live it all over again.
Sure.
Okay, so somebody that I want to meet.
Yeah. Who's next? I mean, you manifested it. So you said Christopher and now you've met Christopher. So whoever you say right now in 5 years are going to follow back up and you will have met this person.
Bruno Mars.
Oh gosh. Isn't he just the best?
I love him.
Oh God, he's just the best.
I love him. And I like to go and watch his old videos from when he was a kid being an Elvis impersonator in Hawaii. Oh my God.
I've seen those. Okay, that's a good one. I didn't expect you to say that. I love that. Oh, I can't wait for you to meet Bruno. Finally, last question. And I ask everybody this, and you got it last time too. The question is what's saving your life right now? And last time you said what was saving your life was a CBD pain roller.
Mm-hmm.
How about now?
My baby nurse, Terry.
Oh, Terry. Oh, God bless her.
Listen, I only have her for a week and a half left. I've had her for 3 months, the first 3 months of Rosie's life. And
Anjelah, amazing.
Cry literal tears when I think about her leaving. Just this morning, we were having a conversation and I was like, wait, we only have you for a week and a half left. Tears. I couldn't even stop them. I was just like, it's not stopping. Somebody help.
Oh, and she's just brilliant. I mean, like, this is her work. She's a baby. She's
been doing it for
maven.
27 years.
Oh,
and
gosh.
Like having another grandma in the house with all the wisdom in the world.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I'm so happy that you had her just for those first 3 months, because those 3 months are chaotic. And you still have all this work to do. I mean, you're not just a free and clear person. Okay, Terry, we'll miss you.
God bless her.
Miss you.
Angel from heaven.
Angel from heaven. Oh, I love it. And I love you. And I'm just delighted to watch your life unfold like this, in this new way, in an unexpected way, in a beautiful way. It's just wonderful. And like, you look good and you sound good. And this is just a joy. So thank you so much, by the way, for just sharing all that with my community. That like really personal, really vulnerable story of what it meant to decide to want a baby and then get a baby that's a big story. So thank you so much for like letting us peek into your journey. Like I loved hearing you talk about that, and I'm just thrilled for you. Just thrilled. So
thank you for having me again.
Sorry you're losing Terry. I genuinely am. Consider
Prayer
replacing
for
her
me.
at least like 4 days a week with the like bigger baby Terry. You know? Anyway. Great to see you. I love you too. And I can't wait to see you next. And as always, if you are in this town or near this town, I'm your person.
What town is it?
Austin.
Oh, yes. Love Austin for sure.
Yeah. Just come on. Just come on over. Anyway.
Thank you. I love you.
Bye, friend. Love you too.
Bye.
All right, you guys. I love her. If you go to Hatmaker.com under the podcast tab, we will have this episode and then links to everything. Where to follow Anjelah, her tour schedule, where to find all of her comedy specials, absolutely everything. And she is just a delightful person to follow on socials too. You'll just love her to pieces and her precious little family. More to come in the comedy series, you guys. And I mean, we have some of Earth's funniest people in this series, and it's my absolute favorite. We love bringing it to you. So you guys, see you next week.